Tonight on News 5 Live, American tourist Allison McKenzie remains missing from Rendezvous Key. Inaugural sitting of the Senate kicks off with fiery debate over the appointment of Amar Mitchell as Contractor General, and a $10 million loan for the second phase of the upgrading of Caracol Road. The Attorney General says he met Lev Derman, but casts doubts on whether the identity of the government minister who took bribes will be revealed. And a migrant caravan from Honduras is crossing into Mexico from Guatemala. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast.
In life, there's always two sides to every story.
Good evening. Welcome to News 5 Live from Monday, January 20th. I am Marlene Cuellar. An American woman is missing in Belize and her family is desperately trying to find her. Tourist Allison Mackenzie has been in Belize since December, and on Friday she and her boyfriend headed out to Rendezvous Key, a small island some 40 minutes away from Belize City. Mackenzie was on board an overnight tour with other visitors and was reportedly drinking on Friday night. She was last seen going into her tent where they had camped on the island. Police are still investigating the circumstances of her disappearance as all search efforts have proven unsuccessful. Reporter Andrea Palanco tells us more in the following story.
It has been 48 hours now, and not only missing, but feared no longer alive. I want her home with us, no matter how she may be found. I want my daughter back. Those are the words shared on Facebook by mother Cherie Mackenzie of Prescott, Arizona, who's desperately trying to locate her missing daughter, Allison Mackenzie. Search efforts are underway for the 43-year-old American national who's gone missing on Rendezvous Key in Belize. Mackenzie and her musician boyfriend, 58-year-old Paige Roth, were on an overnight catamaran tour with Ragamuffin Tours on the Key, located 21 miles southeast of Belize City. According to Roth, when he woke up, Mackenzie was gone.
Information is that they arrived on the island on Friday and were camped in tents, and she was last seen walking around the island around 10 p.m. On Saturday around 6 a.m. Paige Roth reported that when he woke up he could not find his girlfriend, and he made this report to the boat captain.
An immediate search for Mackenzie on Rendezvous Key didn't turn up anything. The authorities were called in that same morning. The Belize Coast Guard searched the area, but Mackenzie was nowhere to be found over the weekend. All search efforts today proved futile.
Since Saturday, we've deployed one unit, a boat and a crew, and they've been doing searches in the area of Rendezvous Key, English Key, Middle Key, which those are the surrounding areas in the area of Rendezvous. Also, this morning we had the assistance of the BDF Air Wing, who conducted flyovers in the area to see if we can spot something from the air. However, we have not come up with anything.
While police reports say that Mackenzie was last seen around 10 on Friday night, her family claims that they've received information that she was seen going into her tent around 2:30 on Saturday morning. According to police, Mackenzie was drinking that night. Other reports say that Mackenzie didn't appear to be her usual self. So what happened on Rendezvous Key? Did Mackenzie go for a night swim and got swept away? Or did something more sinister happen on the sandy beaches of this idyllic key?
Information is that she was drinking on Friday night.
Sir, is there anything to suspect that something went wrong or foul play on the island?
Well, investigators are at the island and searches are being conducted to find out what are the circumstances that led her to her disappearance. At this time, there's not that much to go on, and investigators are working on the case.
Is Mr. Roth a suspect in her disappearance at this time?
I will not call him a suspect. We are conducting an investigation, and as we gather information, then we will try to ascertain what transpired then.
Are you able to maybe elaborate? Did she seem sad? Did she seem maybe overly excited? What was she showing?
I would say kind of erratic, erroneously, and this is what we received after gathering information from the tour guys who were out there along with them.
Have you gathered anything as to maybe her state? Was she in a depressed state, any at all?
So far, we have not received that kind of information.
It's been 2 days since Mackenzie disappeared without a trace. She's a resident of Prescott, Arizona, and a mom of 2 girls. She and her boyfriend Paige Roth arrived in Belize in December 2019. They were scheduled to return home in May of this year. Mackenzie's family in the USA is pleading for help. Her mom, Cherie Mackenzie, wrote on Facebook, Quote, "Everyone, everywhere, I'm asking for your help. We've received 3 different stories about what happened that morning, none of them consistent with the others. We're getting nowhere finding out where she is." End quote. We reached out to tour company Ragamuffin Tours. They say they're unable to give a comment until the investigation is done. In a press release issued today, the Keecocker-based company wrote that Mackenzie was one of 15 passengers accompanied by 3 persons on the crew. The release goes on to say, quote, "We are cooperating fully with law enforcement officers in their investigation. We have given the police comprehensive details of all passengers," end quote. The tour company ends its release saying that they're distressed and concerned about Mackenzie's disappearance and that they're in contact with her family. Police say that Mackenzie's personal belongings were found on the island. They also made checks to see if she had gone out early to kayak, but all gears and crafts were in place. The Belize Coast Guard says that search efforts will continue for the next 48 hours to try to find Mackenzie. Sea conditions on Friday night weren't favorable, but authorities are hoping Mackenzie is still alive.
Well, we're being optimistic here. We're still hoping that, we will find her somewhere in the area, nearby areas.
The survival chances of surviving out there, it's
being that it is closer to one of the area is not very deep, close to the reef, and we have a big island which is Middle Lanky nearby. So chances are that she would have drifted to the bigger island. I really want to stress on the importance of being attentive from the part of the tour guides. If the information was that she was behaving erratic, that is something that should have considered from the beginning, instead of allowing something like that to just pass by without informing the relative or the relevant authorities. Perhaps it is something that would have been avoided.
Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.
Attorney General Michael Perrafete says he met the infamous fraudster Lev Derman through former PUP Minister Ralph Fonseca. Derman's name has appeared in all major headlines last week, causing the Barrow administration a searing migraine. A criminal case in the U.S. is threatening to rock the UDP government, as a former business partner of Derman has accused a UDP minister and a government official of taking financial bribes from Derman, who's accused of leading a $500 million tax fraud against the IRS. After the media widely reported on the impending revelation, Prime Minister Dean Barrow quickly called a press conference in which he said he would fire the cabinet minister who took $25,000 monthly from Derman. Those present denied the taking bribes, and so did Attorney General Michael Perrafete, who was not a government minister at the time.
I met him casually once through my very good friend, the Honorable Ralph Fonseca. He introduced me to Mr. Derman as a person who was interested in doing business in Belize. I met him, I shook his hand, but I've never done business with him. Never had any interaction with him other than just, "Hi, this is Mr. Derman, and he's in Belize, he's interested in doing business with Belize," and that was it. I certainly did not receive any $25,000 a month from him, I can assure you.
You weren't a minister.
I wasn't even a minister then. But then people sometimes don't make the distinction. They just throw things out, Perrafete is a minister now, so he must have been a minister then. I mean, when you want to attack, you just attack with no sense and sensibility sometimes. So let me take myself out of the equation once and for all, even though I was never in it.
Nothing from him or his associates?
Absolutely not. My checks are signed by the government of Belize.
So who was the cabinet minister who received $25,000 monthly? Fingers are being pointed to one specific senior UDP minister. And according to the Prime Minister, his ministers have denied taking the bribe, including the 2 who were set to contest the upcoming leadership convention. Both John Saldivar and Patrick Faber have denied taking monies from Derman. As the nation remains in suspense until the trial commences in the U.S. at the end of the month, Michael Perrafete casts doubt as to whether a name would be called. According to Perrafete, even if a name is called, the evidence must be provided to prove what is said is a fact.
I know they mentioned that there was one wire transfer to a government official They may define government official narrowly or wide enough to include a minister, we don't know. But then that wire transfer would have a name. You would know exactly who that money would have reached. But if you're just saying you gave the person $25,000 per month, they didn't say whether they gave them in cash or in checks or in whatever, we don't know. We're assuming, we can only assume that maybe it was in cash. We don't know, they didn't get into any details. Until we find that out, I mean, we'd be investigating for investigation's sake. We don't know what to look for. And so I don't think you can do more than what we're doing. It's an unfortunate wait and see. We would like to know today. I would have liked to have known last week so we can be done with it. So this is something that you can't say that we're stalling on. I mean, this is something that we need to move past. And so we would love to know the names of the persons. You don't even know if the person who is saying that is telling the truth.
Okay.
Listen to me. You have a person who is a co-accused in a criminal fraud. This person has copped a plea. This person is singing for his supper. I would say anything to lessen my sentence. So we don't know. He has not even revealed who it is. And even if and when he does, that has to be tested on the cross-examination. So you cannot, it's amazing to me that we are just accepting what this person could be saying as a stone-cold fact when we don't know. Even when we learn the name when he says, without proof that he paid the person the money, how do you know he's telling the truth?
Sparks flew inside the National Assembly today, forcing President Darrell Bradley to bring order in the Senate. The debate got heated as senators spoke on the $10 million loan motion for Phase 2 of the upgrading of the Carrico Road. The multi-million-dollar loan has attracted both support and condemnation. One of the concerns that senators would usually express would be the lack of documents shared before the sitting. The project's feasibility and detailed design report was shared with the senators by UDP Senator Dr. Carla Barnett, and that is when the debate got heated.
Today I make a request. I want to see the documents for this contract so that we know what the roadmap is. Has the roadmap changed? Has our priorities changed? Because we have a list right here in that document that the Honorable Carla, after the fact, provided to us. She's probably going to be sorry she gave it to us. I said probably. But I want to know, Mr. President, yes, I understand, Mr. President, I'll get back on track. I want to make a request, Mr. President, for the documents that are being used, which are the real one. Did we borrow 40 or did we borrow 20? What are the works that we are going to be?
On a point that I don't know where my honorable colleague coming with. I didn't think trying to mislead beliefs and people. Yeah, man, come on, man, me. You not got anything from Senator. Senator. I mean, honorable said, I know I don't have that.
Senators. 1 second, Senator.
If my colleague would have taken the time and effort to read the documents that he has or should have been presented with, he would see what I'm talking about, Mr. President.
I did circulate early last year what was the feasibility study that was done. Can I finish, sir?
Doctor.
Okay. Feasibility study with the design Can I please finish without interruption? Okay. Feasibility studies, are you suggesting I would not tell the truth?
Dr. Barnett,
really
Dr. Barnett,
no,
Dr.
please,
Barnett,
sir.
Dr. Barnett.
He cannot
Dr.
do that.
Barnett, 1 second though, Doc. If you are addressing a matter, address it to the chair. Senator, we want to get through these proceedings. If we're going to get through these proceedings, please, when you were speaking, we gave you a certain amount of leeway. Another senator is speaking. It's okay.
A question?
It is
A
okay.
point of order, Mr. President?
What is your point of order?
I fully agree with you, but I just want to say that when one gets up to make a point or one gets up to make a statement, it has to be based on facts and on truth. One cannot mislead. And if one knows that somebody is not making... Let me finish.
No.
No, we have the right to make corrections.
What's the point of all this?
Senators, the year has begun.
Mr. President, do we have the right to correct an improper or not factual statement?
You have the right if you feel that a senator made a statement which misquotes you.
Okay.
But in respect to what you were saying on a point of order, you say you want to make a point of order, you make your point of order.
The point is that this study that I was given was a
order.
detailed design document. That's the point.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Dr. Barnett has the floor.
I do, sir?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I was about to say that early last year, I did circulate a feasibility study and detailed design, which had been completed, I believe, in 2018.
A group of about 1,000 migrants from Honduras and elsewhere from Central America have made their way into Mexico after traveling for several days through neighboring Guatemala. The migrants are fleeing their country for various reasons and are making their way to the United States. The caravan was viewed as a threat, and the National Security Council convened a meeting to determine a plan of action should the migrants reach Belize. Elton Bennett, the commandant of the Belize Coast Guard, was part of the team that decided on the course of action if the migrants reached the border.
We met at National Security Wednesday of last week with the sole purpose of looking at the migrant flow through Central America. We did receive information on a large group leaving Honduras, passing through Guatemala, and eventually passing northern Guatemala or probably passing through Belize with the intent of transiting Mexico to get to the United States. We were back and forth, and we came to a conclusion on how we would approach the situation. Whilst we've never had any caravans passing through Belize, we thought it was necessary as a government to really put out our position, and that position to the operators was very clear, that the government of Belize policy was that we would not facilitate any movement of mass migration through Belize. As a matter of fact, we identified that move as a possible security risk to Belize. So in a sense, national security is taking the lead in this. The whole situation has become securitized in the sense that we would use extraordinary security means to ensure that we demonstrate the government's policy that we would not accept any migrants through Belize.
On Friday, the caravan was spotted by the Cadenas operating base near Belize's border with Guatemala. The splinter group comprised of about 15 to 20 persons who authorities feared would have made their way into Belize. Captain Bennett says none of the migrants made their way into the country.
So the Cadenas operating base did spot a small splinter group from the main 1,000 that was headed our way. This was about somewhere between 15 and 20. They were on foot. They were heading north in Guatemala. We were following that situation closely, and we had eyes on using different means to ensure that we were able to know for certain if they're headed towards Belizean borders and when and in what numbers, so that we could put forward the relevant demonstration of policy. Since then, we have not seen any movements towards Belize. We do believe that small movement continued north in Guatemala and eventually west onto the Guatemalan-Mexican border. So for now, we have not seen any migrants spill over into Belizean territory.
I know you touched on it slightly, I thought it's still being monitored, but where the caravan is at this point in time?
The last report was that the mass of the caravan was on the Teconoman border between Guatemala and Mexico. And whilst the Mexicans were processing some of those migrants, there was a large number that bypassed that official border crossing point and entered into Mexico, creating havoc to the security system and to the government system on a whole. So that's what we want to avoid from happening in Belize by putting out early warning, early detection, and an early show of force at the border to ensure that we send that message quite clear to any mass migration of people through Belize, that the government of Belize's position is that we would not accommodate or tolerate in its form of a migrant of caravan to pass through Belizean territorial.
The National Security Council comprised officials from the Ministries of National Security, Human Development and Immigration. While some of the migrants are in search of a better life, others are known to be attached to criminal organizations. Captain Bennett shared a list of concerns with migrant caravans.
There's a broad range of concern, ranging from gang members. Initial intelligence indicated that there were some undesirable individuals in that group in the form of Central American gangs. That was one of the main concerns. The other issue is a large number that would present itself on our border. And considering our systems that we currently have in place to deal with migration into Belize pose a challenge. So the asylum seeking process would continue once they would reach at the border, and that process would then screen those individuals. But the main risk there was dealing with that large number that would cross over into Belize and then eventually become Belize's responsibility in terms of looking after the humanitarian aspect of it, to ensure that they're fed and provide the very basic needs and hygiene to go along with it. And then coupled with that is the resistance up north, how far they can go. So the fact that they would end up in Belize, on our soil and or nearest to the north, not opening the borders for them to pass through meant that it could have possibly become a issue on our grounds.
Coming up, fiery debate in the Senate on the new Contractor General. The motion to appoint Omar Mitchell to the post of Contractor General was today ratified by the Senate, but not before several senators voiced concerns. Mitchell succeeds Godwin Arzu, who was asked when the Senate would not ratify the renewal of his contract after he failed to produce reports for many years. Mitchell's appointment will be for a period of 3 years, with effect from February 3rd. 67-year-old Mitchell, a civil and structural engineer by profession, returned to Belize in 2000 after living and working in Trinidad for an extended period of time. He was employed with the central bank in that country. In the Senate today, senators questioned if government adhered to the age restrictions, given that Mitchell may be in his late 60s. They also challenged Mitchell's ability to carry out his duties with limited resources.
In his CV, I noticed that he graduated from St. John's in 1969, the year I was born. I'm dating myself now. So, which would put him in the mid to late 60s.
As we celebrate.
Roughly. I tried to get his age from him, but I decided to ask that question late, and I haven't received a response. But why I mention that is that we just have to be aware as to the age limitations for the post. Section 5, subsection 2 refers to vacating office and attaining the age of 65 years. And subsection 3 of that same section effectively says that it could be extended up to the age of 70 years. And I know that the appointment would be for a 3-year period. So I just point that out. We want to make sure that that does not become an issue.
Besides the age, my concern would be are the individuals in tune and abreast of best practices? Because if we're establishing an office of this importance, then that individual must be able to meet global standards as it relates to anything concerning our country.
My concern also was the very concern that he had the age period or the age limit. And I wonder how government will address this issue. I'm certain that when we were talking about the Contractor General, the whole issue of disclosure was very key to this person being employed. And so I was interested in that as well. We were interested in that, the age and disclosure.
In terms of the work that office has to do, we do feel that the office needs strengthening, and so we need to have additional personnel to assist Mr. Mitchell in carrying out the functions of this office. Again, as was said, because of the credentials that he comes with, we do not expect that he would be left there to fail as such, because he doesn't have the support that he needs. And so our concern is the fact that he needs to have more support, and we trust that the government is going to provide the support that is needed.
Knowing him, I have to ask myself if he's really aware of what it is that he's getting into. If he is really aware of what it is that his responsibilities are. And it may be a jest to you, but I'm going to take this opportunity. Speak of the devil, he call me right now. Huh? I should, if with your permission, I would have taken the call, Mr. President, but I shouldn't. But you raise a legitimate concern.
Responding to the senator's concerns was Attorney General and UDP Senator Michael Parafit. Parafit chastised the senators for preempting the works of Mitchell by alluding he would fail at his job. The Attorney General called on the senators to give the man a chance.
So Mr. Mitchell will come in, he will present a budget to the government, he will tell you the staff he needs, the people he needs to fulfill the functions under the Act, and then we judge him from there. We are already saying that he will fail. He will fail. Give the man a chance. We even question if the man too old. What is the man age? Had we put somebody young, you would have heard we're trying to put somebody young because we want to influence them. You put somebody old, you hear a person too old. What will satisfy these people? What? You're appointing a seasoned Belizean to a very important watchdog position. The person has nothing to gain and nothing to lose. senior independent engineer. He has all the powers that he needs to ensure that there's transparency when it comes to government work. If we are saying that Mr. Mitchell cannot do this job, or you're already doubting him, then you're not speaking badly about the government, you know. You're speaking badly about Mr. Mitchell. You're praising him in one sense, but then you're disrespecting him in another sense. You are saying, all of you are saying, who spoke about the concern about government, that Mr. Mitchell is some sissy or some person who's just going to lay down and play dead. No, no. Mr. Mitchell is a person who's going to ensure that his job is done, and he's going to make sure that he submits to the government what he needs to execute his duties. Give the man a chance. Make me wait and say, no. You all are already destroying the work that he will be doing, not because you don't believe him, but every opportunity you get to try and bash the government for doing anything, you jump on it. You can't help on yourself. You can't help on yourself that you're not bashing in the future.
Belize Telemedia Limited owes millions of dollars in taxes to the government of Belize. That's the position of the Belize Tax Service. Financial Secretary Joseph Wade confirmed last week that the Attorney General Michael Perifete was asked for legal advice concerning BTL's tax woes. As we reported in 2019, when the issue came to light, BTL purportedly racked up more than $29 million in GST tax for the period 2012 to 2017. The telecom giant has denied owing any taxes, but the department maintains there is a debt. Perifete says his office legal advice should be completed by Tuesday.
It's not concluded yet, but I'm expecting it to be concluded either today or tomorrow.
Okay, so absolutely no hint either way.
No, absolutely not. They sought my legal advice, and I'm going to give them my legal advice. What led to them asking me? What led to them changing their minds? What you would have to ask them. I don't know. What I'm saying.
People lied back then about whether the company did owe or not when they were asked publicly.
What I know is, a couple weeks ago, the financial secretary asked for my analysis of the situation as to whether, in our view, as the government's lawyers, that BTL is owed taxes or not. We will render that opinion. And I am sure when we render that opinion, 10 bush liars will say they agree, 10 bush liars will say they don't agree. That's just the nature of the business. And then you will say, did you give that opinion because government owe BTL? And because I'm sure, you know, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
The St. Catherine Academy says that as they head into their 130th anniversary, they will be putting the conversation of climate and youth into action on their school grounds. The high school says that their environmental club have led the charge to raise awareness and promote conservation. Today they hosted a forum and launched a reusable shopping bag to discourage the use of single-use plastics. Principal Salome Tillett shares more.
As we celebrate the start of our 138th year of existence, we thought it would be a timely conversation with our young people. We want them to care, we want them to do more, and so we want to bring the facts to them and get them actively involved in caring for the earth. For years now we've banned styrofoam, plastic straw, and plastic utensils. So we want to go a little bit farther. On campus, actually today, we are going to be banning or at least drastically reducing the use of plastic bottles. So we've partnered with Bowen & Bowen, and they are going to put water coolers in every class. So our students will only be able to bring recyclable containers to fill their water. No more plastic bags, no more water pouches on campus. That's exciting. So the partnership got us energized, and we were thinking, what else can we do? We spoke to other partners who own stores, and we said, well, if we created a bag that your customers, our parent community could take to the store, would you give them a discount? And they were happy to jump on board. The first was Brothers Habit. They say they come with that bag, they get 5% discount. we asked that Mikado, it was the same thing. You come with the SCA bag, we don't have to give you a plastic bag, you will get a discount. And so we've been working with other stores, we've been in discussion with Angelo's Press, Sancas and Save You, Brody's, and Mirab. Some little things we have to work out. For example, what if they can't fit in the bag? What happens then? Do we still get a discount? But the partnership from the community has really been awesome.
The bags are for sale at SCA. Also, as a part of its environmental stewardship, SCA is giving back to the city with 5 trash receptacles installed on Marine Parade between Memorial Park and Golden Bay. There was a meeting this morning at the Ministry of Health in Belmopan. The nurses' task force has been at odds with the ministry on a number of issues. According to a brief post, the ministry says Health Minister Pablo Marin and officials met with the task force. One of the issues is the urgent filling of the post for Deputy Director Health Services Chief Nursing Officer. The task force is also saying that a nurse should be included on the selection panel in the recruitment of nurses. We are told that an interview has been held and a suitable candidate has been nominated for the post of Deputy Director of Health Services for Nursing and has been submitted to the Ministry of the Public Service. The minister expressed his intention to move forward on several other matters, but he awaits the decision of the Public Service on that critical post. After the break, police called to diffuse tensions at Gwen Liz. February 9th has been set aside by the United Democratic Party for its leadership convention. As you know, Patrick Faber and John Saldivar are going head-to-head to become the next leader of the UDP and next Prime Minister of Belize. Both have been meeting with delegates to secure their vote. The Lev-Derman scandal, however, looms above the Barrow government, and it is expected that by month's end, when the trial begins in the U.S., the name of the UDP minister and government official who received bribes from Derman will be known. Whatever is released, the UDP's chairman-designate, Michael Perifeet, says that the convention should proceed as planned.
I don't see why we should postpone it. The general elections are due at the latest November 2020. Pushing back our internal leadership contest, I don't think would make much sense at this point. I think we press forward. We cannot assume that any name will be called or any minister's name will be called. We don't know that yet. We have to wait for that trial to play out. And until then, we cannot put the leadership of the country and the leadership of our party on pause because of a case that's going on in the United States. So I think we should just go forward as planned.
Earlier this afternoon, Belize Rural North Area Representative Edmund Castro got into a road traffic accident along the George Price Highway. News 5 understands that the Minister of National Emergency Management was traveling inside a pickup truck when it collided with a sports utility vehicle near Mile 4. The front of the vehicle received extensive damages while the pickup ran off the shoulder of the road. It is not clear whether the driver of the other vehicle sustained any injuries, and we understand nonetheless that Castro was uninjured. Gwenliz High School is back in the news tonight. There was a huge brawl among various groups of students at Gwenliz on Friday, which forced classes to be suspended for the remainder of the day. News 5 understands that police officers and an ambulance had to be called to the scene when teachers and other members of staff were unable to break up the fight. In speaking with a member of the school's board of directors, we were informed that the cause of the clash is being investigated by the administration. It was reported elsewhere that weapons and ammunition were subsequently discovered on the school compound. However, that account cannot be verified at this time. A hotel just outside of Belmopan city limits was targeted by armed burglars on Saturday night. While there were no guests at the hotel, a security guard says that he was accosted by 3 thieves who escaped with several items, including a television set from one of the rooms. Luckily, the security guard was not injured in the crime. Police say that they are investigating the matter, but don't believe that the burglary was an inside job.
The proprietor of Happy Inn, along with her security, visited the Belmopan police station and reported that on Saturday, sometime around 7:30 p.m., whilst he was inside the guard hut at the hotel where he is a caretaker, he was approached by 3 male persons who assaulted him, and as a result, a number of items were taken from the building, including a flat-screen television. So far, police have not detained anyone in relation to this investigation, and we are investigating the matter. The security at that point was the only person on the premises at the time of the alleged attack.
These persons had weapons?
Yes, we were told that one of those persons had a weapon, but it was not used in the attack.
Have any of the stolen items been recovered?
No, not as yet.
Is there anything to believe that maybe it was an inside job?
At this point in time, we would not want to speculate other than to say we are following up on the investigation.
There were 2 acts of gun violence recorded over the weekend in the west end Bella Vista Village and up north in San Andres Village in Corozal. Police are looking for a resident of Bella Vista who they say entered the apartment of Edelson Clavel on Saturday night and opened fire at him and 2 other persons. Clavel was reportedly socializing with friends inside his apartment when the gunman, who he recognized, took aim at him before fleeing the area. Assistant Commissioner of Police Joseph Migrant says that they have not been able to establish a motive for the shooting, but they are looking for the suspect.
Edelson Clavel reported to police that whilst inside his room in the company of two of his friends, they were approached by a male person known to him for the last 5 months, who opened the door of his apartment and fired several shots inside the apartment, none of which caught him. He was able to escape. The police were quick on the scene but were unable to catch up with the culprit, who at this point in time is being sought pending this investigation.
Have you guys been able to establish what motivated that shooting?
No, we haven't. We've spoken to him, but he is saying that he know of no known problem with this person.
That person is also from the village?
Yes, he is.
Is he considered armed and dangerous?
At that point, yes, he was. But the police have since detained one person in relation to the investigation, and a firearm has been seized.
Also in Corozal, a San Andres resident was targeted by a gunman while hanging out on a basketball court in the village. Marlon Palacio escaped serious injury. It says the shooting was motivated by an altercation he had with the gunman just moments before. The nature of the argument is not known, but police say the other person returned with a gun and trained it at Palacio. ACB Migrant told the media that the suspected gunman has since been taken into custody.
Police responded to a shooting incident in San Andres Village, Corozal District, where Marlon Palacio, 37 years of San Andres Village, reported to police that whilst he was at a basketball court within the village, he had an altercation with a male person who then left and later returned with what appeared to be a firearm, and that person fired several shots in his direction, none of which caught him. Police are investigating this matter, and that person is in custody at this point in time pending the investigation.
The nature of the altercation?
We do not know at this time.
The weapon has been retrieved?
No, it hasn't been retrieved.
When we come back, a protest in the South over the dumping of medical waste.
Signing up for Smart
Over the weekend, residents of San Antonio Village in Toledo District held a protest during which they strongly objected to the disposal of medical waste in a pit dug behind the Isabel Palma Polyclinic. Our colleagues from PGTV say that the issue arises from a lack of proper facilities at the PG Hospital to incinerate the unwanted material. Led by Toledo West Area Representative Oscar Requena, protesters carried posters demanding that human refuse not be discarded or burned in the village. News 5 will seek to get a comment from the Ministry of Health on Tuesday. Precipitating the harsh criticisms levied against the Barrow administration on adjournment of Friday's House meeting was a pair of audit reports presented to Prime Minister Barrow back in October. The results of separate financial reviews for Julian Cho Technical High School and the National Sports Council were submitted by Auditor General Dorothy Bradley after carefully going over the expenditures of both institutions. It was discovered that in both instances there were a number of irregularities as well as dubious cash transactions. In presenting the reports to the House of Representatives, the Prime Minister reiterated that the documents will also be forwarded to Commissioner of Police Chester Williams for action to be taken against those who were found to be culpable of criminal wrongdoing at the Sports Council. He stopped short, however, of seeking similar action against those named in the Julian Cho scandal.
Report of the Auditor General, audit of the Julian Cho Technical High School, Ministry of Education, for the period April 1st, 2014 to September 2016. HR 237B/1/12, report of the Auditor General, audit of the National Sports Council, Ministry of Education for the period April 2015 to March 31st, 2016. HR 237C/1/12, Central Bank of Belize, estimates of revenue and expenditure for fiscal year 2020. Well, Mr. Speaker, these papers are only being laid and there is no debate. I do want to say something in respect particularly of the report of the Auditor General regarding the audit of the National Sports Council. Just to repeat what I said in my press conference, that audit report needs to go to the Commissioner of Police, who I expect will consult with the Director of Public Prosecutions, and I would imagine that action by way of criminal prosecutions will take place in the instances where the authorities, the Commissioner and the DPP, decide that the material sustains criminal prosecutions. There is one other matter concerning the then Deputy Minister of Sports. Again, the report will go to the Public Accounts Committee, but I do want to say that to the extent that there is an allegation of, as it seems to me, a violation of ethics, conflict of interest, since that Deputy Minister is not any longer in government as a minister, but is the Consul General of Belize in New York, he will certainly have to meet with me and offer me, as natural justice requires, his explanation with respect to what the Auditor General says. And I simply want to assure this House that I will act on the basis of what is in that report. Thank you.
Both documents will also be handed over to the Public Accounts Committee chaired by Deputy Leader Julius Espat of the People's United Party. While Opposition Leader John Brisenia cited a pending Auditor General's report that is yet to be returned to the House, he called out Prime Minister Barrow for failing to take decisive action against Dr. Simeon Koch, the erstwhile principal of Julian Cho, who was named in the report.
The chairman of the Public Accounts Committee has reported to me that the last account, the 2012-2013 Auditor General's report that has been submitted probably about 2 years ago to the Public Accounts Committee is just stuck there. And he has submitted a report to the PAC, but the members from the government side, who are the majority, refuse to work on that report, refuse to do anything with it, so it is stuck there, and we can't bring it back so we can talk or we can have a debate on that report. And it's ironic that two of the members are individuals who want to lead the UDP after the Prime Minister retires. So I am pleading to you to instruct them that probably that by the next House meeting that report should be brought back. And secondly, whilst I understand and I heard keenly to the Prime Minister about the report from the Auditor General on the Sports Council, I was hoping he would say the same thing about Dr. Simon Koch, or what is it? Simeon Koch, who is running for the UDP in Toledo West.
Coming up after the break, Fisheries bill gets full support of the House and Senate. A new Fisheries Resources Bill was tabled in the House of Representatives on Friday, which will aid in making small-scale fisheries more sustainable for marine life as well as fisher folks. This new piece of legislation, which was unanimously supported in the upper house, replaces the previous law, which has been on the books for the past 70 years. Not only will it ensure the sustainable use and management of fisheries resources, it would also help with conservation for the coral reefs.
This bill has been consulted in the most comprehensive manner possible, and enjoys the support of the majority of stakeholders. No doubt there are one or two persons, entities that are not satisfied, but that will always be the case, Mr. Speaker, with any human endeavor. So I simply want to say that in terms of the instructions I have, it gives me great pleasure to be able to move, as it were on your behalf, the second reading of this bill. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I seek your indulgence in referring to my notes. And first, I want to recognize those stakeholders who are here with us this morning, who have been a part of this ventilation for some time now. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the passage of the Fisheries Resource Bill. Mr. Speaker, the fishing industry of Belize contributes 3 to 4% annually of GDP and has maintained its place as one of the main foreign exchange earners of our country. The Fisheries Resource Bill continues to provide food security and livelihood for thousands of Belizeans.
Orange Walk South Area Representative Jose Mai spoke of the legislation in the context of the New River crisis of 2019. According to Mai, the Fisheries Resources Bill also allows for the protection of inland resources, such as the New River Lagoon.
The existing act, I understand, was 1948. It was enacted in 1948. So while we are signatories to international conventions and treaties to protect our resources, we are not in conformity. So this act today, Mr. Speaker, allows us to fall into conformity with all these agreements that we have signed. And one of the good things I like about this act, being from Orange Walk inland, is that it allows us the opportunity for inland water reserves and conservation. What happened to us in Orange Walk with the New River is a wake-up call. We took everything for granted. We took everything for granted, and we all contributed to the pollution of a very important waterway in Orange Walk. This bill now allows us to implement the inland water conservation practices and to declare certain areas as such. During the New River crisis, I was doing some research and I came across several organizations that have funding for such implementation of these reserves, these protected areas. And I want to propose to the Honorable House that an area to look at carefully is south of the New River, or rather the New River Lagoon. It is, in my belief, an area that can still be managed. That is what flows into the river. This act now allows us for that great opportunity, and we must work on that, Mr. Speaker.
Up next, James Adderley with the weekend sporting stats.
Sports Monday is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good evening, I'm James Satterley. Welcome to Sports Monday. We were off to Scenic San Pedro where the NEBL launched its opening game inside the SP High School auditorium on Saturday night as the defending champion San Pedro Tiger Sharks hosted Belize City Defenders. Michael Zull inbounds to Devin Daly, who lands the triple for the City team. He would put up 4 of 9 from long distance to finish with 23 points. Nigel Jones then spats for 3 and gets to lead all players with the game high of 27 points and 10 rebounds to take the early lead. However, the Tiger Sharks come alive. Francis Arana deals to Antone Robinson Jr., who goes lefty for 2 of his 21 points. Arana reads to steal this no-look pass by Michael Zull and goes all the way for 2 of his 15 game points. At the end of the first quarter, we're tied at 26 apiece. San Pedro Tiger Sharks make a run in the second quarter. Martivius Adams returns the ball to Francis Arana, who lands the 3-point shot. Kurt Burgess, he pushes the San Pedro lead to 14 points with this triple, and he would put up all of 7 points. At the half, the Tiger Sharks lead 50-40. Belize City defenders would cut the deficit to 4 points in the third quarter, but not before the big man, Martivius Big Man Adams, picks up this loose ball for the putback to make it a 9-point lead. Adams would score the team high of 24. Now, Francis Laureano, he hooks up with Luther Page, who gets 2 of his 8 points. Devin Daly then takes this ball away from Emory Bennett Jr., and he makes it count. Faron Laureano, he grabs this rebound for the putback, and he would put up 16 points. At the other end, Arana deals to Jihad Wright, who earns 2 points the hard way and would finish with 12. Devin Daly, he pulls up for a bucket and gets it. Plus, he gets a trip to the charity stripe. He hits it to pull defenders to within 2. Daly gets this chance to tie the ball game from the free throw line, but misses both. At the end of 3, the score is 74-70. In the fourth, Mr. Adams comes to town with back-to-back buckets to give San Pedro a 6-point lead. Make it 3 in a row for the 7-point lead with this rugged 2 points. Hey guys, Martivius Adams dominates in the fourth quarter. It's just the plain truth as the defending champion San Pedro Tiger Sharks roll over the Belize City defenders in a 99-90 final score. A word to the competition, you had better be ready to meet Mr. Adams. Looking ahead to the weekend, San Pedro will visit the Belize Hurricanes, the true sub-champion, at the Civic Center Friday night. Hey. It's going to be quite an event, folks. Don't miss this clash. It's a clash of super warriors. While the Running Rebels travel to Verdes at San Ignacio, on Saturday, Dangriga will host Belize Defenders, and the Belmopan Bandits journey to PG Panthers. In other basketball news, Orange Walk Running Rebels played a preseason against Corozal Ballers Friday inside the OW Multipurpose Complex. It was indeed a blowout as the Rebels have imported 2 Americans in an effort to contend in this year's NEBL competition. Meet Shaquille Stokes. As he penetrates to hit the jumper in the paint, he would put up all at 29 points, which is the game high. Daquan Cooper, he gets set for a monster slam, and he doesn't disappoint. He would score 17 points. Tyree Orozco, he shows his long-distance range as he tallied 14 points. Another Running Rebels player, Raja Renault, will represent a challenge to the league. He scored 14 points against Corozal. We're looking out for fireworks. Meet Lupita Acosta, who organized the Corozal Ballers. They fell in a 116-64 score, but hey, you're still going strong, my man.
Definitely, it's my first time in Belize. I'll tell you, I'm fitting in right now. It feels good. I'm liking the city. As far as the season goes, nothing less than a championship. We're aiming for the top. Coming into the season, we've had a couple of scrimmage games. We've looked good. I think from here on out, we can only go up.
Checking in on the football scene, the PLB closing season over the weekend, sir. Altitude FC holds San Pedro to a 1-1 draw. Altitude is coming hard. The BDF march past Placentia Assassins 3-2 and Verdes double Wagia in a 2-1 final score. This season gonna be truly interesting. Turning to water sports, the annual La Ruta Maya returns to the scene as they launch the pre-event races. It began yesterday. We are inside Henderson Bank at Burrell Boom for the start with 15 canoes headed to the finish line at Manatee Lookout. Oops, the first mishap of the season occurs as this particular canoe turns over in a balance distribution problem, but would rectify the situation to finish, as their name says it all, hardly particular. Here in the finish at Manatee Lookout at its core, turning on the pressure to the tape, taking the W, Jerry Conte, Armando Cruz, and Daniel Cruz paddling to first place. They edged out Niche, featuring Efrain Cruz, Alex Cruz, and Daniel Cruz, who paddling 3 seconds off the pace for second, and packed with Henar Cruz, Jesus Linares, and Adrian Williams, finished 6 minutes after the leaders for third place. Coast Guard took fourth, while Westrock rounds out the top 5. Finally, in cycling news, the M&M Engineering Hell of the North Tour concluded over this weekend as presented by M&M Engineering, of course. Henry Moreira, riding Elite for Smart. In the Masters category, he takes first place. 2 hours, 25 minutes, 24.92 seconds. James Alford of Digicel, also riding as an Elite, he finished second. Carlton Robinson of Benny's, third. Jocelyn Chavaria of Digicel, fourth, while Josiah Fuller of Santino's rounds out the top 5. Hey folks, that's our show for today. Certainly hope you enjoyed it. We invite you back same time, same place next week. Ja! Overall, I'm James Adderley.
Sports Monday was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
And that's the news. Don't forget that tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/News5Live. I'm Marlene Cuellar. Thanks for joining us, and from all of us here at News 5, good night.